Welcome to Reflections. My name is Patrick Tomlinson, and today we have Mr. Fritz Earle McClymont, who has graciously consented to coming back and telling us a little bit more about his life and his experiences. So, welcome again, Fritz. Thanks for coming.
Thank you, Mr. P.
And last time we spoke, you had mentioned that you were involved in a lot of agricultural pursuits. And you also mentioned that you had an early foundation in beekeeping while growing up. Your father was a beekeeper. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yes, my grandfather was a beekeeper. My father was a beekeeper. And my father, I'd say a successful bee farmer, because he used to win the Island Awards at the Denby Show for a
That's
number
in
of
Jamaica.
years. In Jamaica.
Right.
While that. And when I went back to Jamaica in 77, I started keeping my own apiaries, and my father had his. So together we continued bee farming. And much later I consulted with Jamaica's largest commercial bee farmer, Kenrick Thompson, the late Kenrick Thompson, in Santa Cruz. And today is actually, currently I'm negotiating to do a very large apiculture project in Uganda.
In Uganda. That's in East Africa.
East Africa.
Interesting. But before we get to that, you were telling me that you also were wearing many hats in the 1970s. You were invited back by the Jamaican government to set up their municipal bus transportation system in the tourist art.
The then Manley government.
Okay.
My responsibility was to set up an orderly and efficient transport system for the city of Montego Bay. And
tell us a little bit about Montego Bay for those who are not familiar with it.
Montego Bay is Jamaica's tourist capital. It may be one of the larger tourism capitals in the Caribbean. And was originally an agricultural port, an agricultural region, and evolved into tourism. So when I got there in 77, there was a need for a municipal transportation company. And I was given the responsibility of setting that up. I left New York, and
What year was this?
1977, the fall of 77. And I was able to build that, what I say, successfully. In a few years, we moved from 12 buses to 30, had a transport system that worked, delivered people to work on time, students to school on time, and was able to do what I consider some innovative things in terms of running a state corporation and doing it profitably.
Profitably?
Profitably. Remember now, I was working for a democratic socialist government, and we were challenged to do things like worker participation, how you dealt with workers, how you provided service to a community. And I enjoyed it. But it gave me time also to experiment with, on the side, with my bee farming and herbal teas. I got very involved in cultivation, processing, and marketing of herbal teas. And that was my own personal interest while I worked for the government.
Okay. So you are also responsible for the design and implementation of preventative maintenance systems and the construction of a maintenance depot.
Yes.
You handled negotiations with Leland Motors also of the United Kingdom.
Bear in mind, Montego Bay was the second city. Fortunately for me, I didn't have the direct oversight of Kingston. So I was able to experiment in terms of doing things innovatively. I was able to get 2 buses from Kingston, took them down, and refurbished them completely. So I could figure out what skills, what parts were available. And from that, the government, at the time, had me go to Leland and negotiate with them
That's in the United Kingdom?
in United Kingdom, Wolverhampton, with the assistance of the guys who were supplying the buses. 'Cause we were buying buses from Leland. And what I demonstrated to the government, we have the ability to make buses. And, you know, Manley was that kind of person, but he in his administration. Long story short, I went to London with my engineer, went to Wolverhampton, looked at the system, their assembly line, and realized that if they shipped the chassis down with everything in, we could do the bodies in Jamaica assembly. So that's what we did.
Okay.
And we set up an assembly plant in Kingston to assemble buses in Jamaica.
Where exactly was this?
It was down off Spanish Town Road.
Okay.
In that area.
Kingston, yeah, downtown Kingston.
Downtown Kingston. And it worked. And those buses worked, I mean, for many years after, I saw them operating in Jamaica. But politics being what it is, in the early 80s, it was closed down.
Okay. Okay.
In Montego Bay, the plan was to have, what I decided to do then was to set up a transportation hub, because we had Montego Bay the end of the rail. So if you had a rail coming from Kingston into Montego Bay, right next to the rail station, a 3-acre site, I used that to set up a maintenance depot that would also serve as a bus terminus.
Okay.
But I left before
You got to that phase of the
phase.
okay. Very good. And you're also you stated here that you managed the export trading company of the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, where you represented over 100 regional firms, and you played a key role in establishing some entity in South Africa?
Yes.
Okay.
I joined the Port Authority in 1993 to run their export trading company. At the time, there was regulation not to do business with South Africa, but things were changing. And I convinced the port to change their policy. And at the end, the deputy executive director said, "What do we do next?" I said, "Let's take a delegation to South Africa, because we'll never have a chance to see South Africa under apartheid if we don't get there before, I think it was April '94. So we got there in March, and good-sized delegation, and we had a chance to see South Africa. And eventually we were able to set up an office for the Port Authority in Johannesburg. There was one in London.
Well, why would you need an office there in
Well, the port, there's an office in London and one in Japan. And the idea was to promote New York and New Jersey as an investment destination, firms coming in, as well as export products. So those offices would work as export representation agencies for New York and New Jersey companies.
Okay.
So we had 100-odd companies that we would represent them. We'd send representatives to trade shows abroad or to different cities to promote these companies.
Okay. So you mentioned earlier, Fritz, that you are currently in the field of agriculture and the bee production or honey production business in Africa.
Yeah. But agriculture is it's something I'm passionate about, whether I'm growing a garden or doing a commercial composting project in the South Bronx.
Right.
And before I went to Jamaica, actually, I consulted with a local group in the Bronx that were taking waste to compost it and to convert it to waste to compost into potting soil to grow gardens in the Bronx. And eventually I came back in the 80s, actually, and ran that agency for a few years.
Okay.
Where we actually did a potting soil called Zoodoo.
Right.
We eventually got the waste from the Bronx Zoo, converted that into a composted potting soil, sold it in Bloomingdale's as a not-for-profit venture.
Okay.
in the South Bronx. And that was something I was excited about.
Very good, very good. Now, I think we have a couple of pictures of you and some mining operations or agricultural operations in Africa.
Uganda.
In Uganda, specifically. Yeah. But you have been all over Africa, so maybe we want to look at a couple of them. I think the first one up is we have that shot, right?
That's near Lake Victoria in eastern Uganda, an area called Bugishu.
Okay.
And that was a large property. One of the big problems in Africa is land tenure. And sometimes you'll end up with large tracts of land,
right,
and can't get title or tenure because there's squatters on it, and you have to work with them. And the idea was to work with the squatters who were on the land, bring them into what are called outgrowers programs.
Next picture we have, next one up. That one
This is a more recent project where we're actually cultivating sugarcane, preparing the land there for sugarcane.
Okay, so this is a sugarcane producing operation in Uganda also.
In Uganda.
And that one is...
That's sugarcane.
Okay, sugarcane in Uganda.
Being cut on the ground, ready to be moved.
Is sugar processed in Uganda? They are processing
yes.
it? Okay.
There's an estate that buys the sugarcane, Kakira estate, and it's good business.
Okay. Next one we have is...
That's sugarcane also.
Okay, so the land is being cleared now for sugar.
Cleared that.
Okay.
And now the sugarcane is planted.
This is...
When we got to the first site, the principal there, one of the principals, Idrissa, made sure he stayed with the vehicles.
Okay.
To protect, because, I'm going in, I'm coming from New York, I'm going in. Folks have no idea who this guy is. What am I coming there to do?
Okay.
And there were developers who would go in and throw people off the land. So you have to contend with that.
Okay.
So my approach is you go in and negotiate with people, bring them in, and work with the people who are there, who are already on the land.
Okay. The next picture we have up is...
That's the community.
That's a community close by.
That's a community on the land.
Okay, on the land.
Where we're farming.
So they're living, so these are workers also.
These are
on
squatters who are there.
Oh, squatters on the land.
These are the people now who I say you bring them into. And this lady, I had no idea what I was getting into.
Yes.
She has an axe.
Okay.
And I was told afterwards, she's just making sure that you behave.
Yes, you respect her rights.
But, yes, and she came out to say, what are you here to do?
Okay.
So I took this picture.
Okay, okay.
And I had to engage the people who were there. And that's part of what I find interesting in Africa, Patrick.
Right.
From my Jamaican experience, I was able to apply much of what I learned in Jamaica in terms of working with local communities, whether developing a transport company or with farmers in Africa. Same problems. Okay. And whatever solutions we have in the Caribbean, they're relevant in Africa.
Okay.
So it's how you transfer that. We talk about transferring technology. In business, we have to transfer technology and transfer whatever creative experiences we have. And to me, that's what business is about. Be able to share experiences and resources in making something work.
Okay. You also mentioned that you are involved in the mining sector in Africa.
That's another challenging industry.
I think we have one or two shots of, this.
Yeah, that's a gold mine in Uganda.
Oh, so you're doing gold mining in Uganda?
No, this is not my personal project.
Okay.
Project I went in to look at.
As a consultant?
As a consultant to work with. This gentleman invested, you'll see this Saudi Arabian investor.
With gold mining equipment?
Yes,
prospecting
he invested
equipment.
about $5 million into this venture. And the thing about mining, Patrick, people come to me now and say, I have 50 kilos of gold. I don't want to hear it. It takes 1 ton of crushed rock to provide 1 ounce of gold.
Okay.
So it's a very capital-intensive process.
Project and time-consuming.
Except for the people who are panning. So you have a lot of small miners, artisanal miners. People buy from them. It's a very interesting trade. and a trade that one can invest in. Not you don't need $5 million to do it, but you can invest in trading. That's what I do now.
Okay.
In my company, we trade gold and trade equipment.
Okay.
So I'll go and I'll sell equipment into miners like this, or small miners who need dredges, and they increase production, and we'll help them market their products in the United States.
Okay.
Because compliance is also critical, because of the smuggling in the mining industry, it's important that one comply or understand compliance or understand scamming. It's a very, very tough industry.
Yes, you did mention that.
But it's also
Can be lucrative.
lucrative.
Okay. And you also mentioned that you are involved in business ventures in Latin America or South America.
There we work with mining companies there.
Again, still in mining.
Still in mining.
Okay, mining sector.
And whether it's tantalum or iridium or gold or platinum, we work with them in trading those commodities.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about these specialty metals. They're rare earth metals? You call them?
No, it's
not rare.
not rare. No, we don't do rare earth.
Okay,
We do basic gold, silver, platinum. We're also looking at tantalum, iridium, and we trade.
Okay.
People will bring in, if there are two ways of investing in gold. Right now, gold is about little over $1,500 per ounce. And if you buy a kilo of gold, which would be between 40,000, and you can bring it, we can trade it here and sell it directly. So you may make, let's say you make $2,000 a kilo. You can do that in a month. So if you're making 2 or 3%, and two or three people get together, put $40,000, $45,000, get a kilo of gold, trade it, and you turn it over in a month, you make 3%. Okay. You do it 4 times a year, that's 12%.
Okay.
But again, the risk is great. I've seen enough scams where people have invested a lot of money, and what they get is what we call fool's gold, or they're scammed into receiving something coated like gold, and they come to the refinery, and once we assayed, and we say to them, this is not gold, I've seen people just fall apart. But
so there are many pitfalls.
yes, but one can study and work with existing miners or people who are in the industry and do well.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned also that you're a co-founder of the NMBC, National Minority Business Council, and you have been involved with them for over 45 years, which is a non-profit. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What are the objectives?
NMBC was set up in '72 to provide advocacy, education and training, and business opportunities for minority firms. And we've maintained that all these years, working with small minority firms, now women-owned businesses.
Okay. So if you're a small business person and you have an issue, the NMBC is a place that you can...
One could go to.
Okay.
And it's a membership organization.
Okay, membership organization.
So you join membership, we provide those services. We do procurement programs with large corporations, for example. We'll have a major corporation. We'll have a luncheon, so the purchasing representative from major corporation will come, explain to you how to get into our corporation, how to sell to us.
Okay.
And we've been doing procurement programs for 15, 20 years.
Okay. Who are some of your major avenues for procurement?
State government, city, Con Edison, PepsiCo, MTA, just to mention a few, Power Authority.
Yeah, and Port Authority of New York, New Jersey? No?
No,
Okay.
not much.
Okay. So if I'm a small business person and I'm seeking avenues to grow my business, the NMBC is a good avenue to get plugged into and to seek opportunities. Okay. you are also, you created this Global Entrepreneurship Center in Manhattan.
Yes.
Is that still in
Still
operation?
part of an NBC. No, the idea was to bring together small businesses to share experiences and resources to build the businesses, similar to people who do shared spaces or joint working relationships. That was the idea, but to
Okay.
do it globally.
Okay.
So I've been to China representing an
Tell us a little
NBC.
bit about that, because I think we have one or two slides of you of that Chinese delegation or your visit to China. I'm not sure if they have it back there, but
I, I,
tell us a little bit about the
I
China.
believe that, China,
Yes, I think that's it up there. We have that up.
that's with my Chinese partner at the Great Wall, yeah, at the Great Wall of China.
Okay.
And I was in Beijing and Guangzhou with him looking at, again, the mining sector. He's a successful Chinese businessman, but he's not the major the Chinese government corporations.
Right.
So my interest is in working with our counterparts, medium-sized, small, medium-sized U.S. minority businesses with Chinese, and collectively together we can take on Africa.
Okay.
Okay, I call it my Sino-Afrique strategy. Because if we have, the large corporations going in, U.S. large corporations are fighting with them, that's not my fight. I'm interested in building small, medium-sized businesses. And there are funds available in China. They've put sort of millions of dollars for Chinese firms to invest in Africa. So if we have that, and we have U.S. firms who can take advantage of
You're,
U.S.
you're talking
investments.
about small and minority
Yeah,
firms.
medium-sized firms.
Okay.
You have to be startups. Forget it. If you're in business for a few years, you have some experience, you have some expertise, you have some good credit, or you have some cash, and you're ready to go into Africa. I'd say look to partner with the Chinese because there are funds available there as well. So we have opportunities here, like what the Trump administration now calls Prosper Africa, which is under the Overseas Private Investment Corporation. So there are those kind of programs that one can take advantage of to look into opportunities in Africa.
Okay. And you would encourage small and minority, small, medium, and businesses here in New York to look to take advantage of some of these opportunities.
Oh yes.
Okay.
There are tremendous opportunities, and I'd say in agriculture, in
What are some of the sectors or the crops or?
food crops, agriculture, period. Technology, there is artificial intelligence is big. Here in
Is
my-
there particular regions that are more susceptible or open to particular types of investment or?
No, one has to really study it. I like East Africa for a number of reasons.
Why? What particular?
The people are different.
Right.
I like the people. Where I am in Uganda, it's right where the River Nile borders Lake Victoria. The Nile begins there. Lovely little town.
Beginning of civilization.
Reminds me of Montego Bay in '77. Good opportunities in housing. There are opportunities. Right now, you can buy properties in Ghana, so back to the West, through a group there that left here, set up Black Star Credit Union in Ghana, and now that same group, they're selling lots in Ghana to people over here who want to repatriate to Africa. So that's
Was there a repatriating program that was set up by one of these governments in Africa?
Well, the government of Ghana had what they call a 400 years of return, which in 2019 were encouraging diasporan Africans to come back. And that's pretty much spreading across the continent now. More
Okay.
people are doing that. So there are opportunities to invest. And I'd say to folks who want to take your time and study,
Yes, I've seen.
Ghana started it.
Okay, okay, and even Botswana and Namibia,
Zimbabwe,
Zimbabwe,
Namibia, yes.
right, are looking for technical expertise. But you said you like around,
I like the East.
yes, yes, because it's particularly appealing and,
And there, well, in terms of technology, Africa's leapfrogged in terms of mobile technology.
right,
And you have like M-Pesa in Kenya, where they've actually revolutionized mobile banking with technology developed in that region.
right.
And there's a lot happening around what they call Silicon Savannah, which is Kenya, and the whole.
Is that a particular area in Kenya?
Just that they have a lot of very sophisticated technology operators, and these are young people who are doing a phenomenal job in terms of different kinds of information technology. And I suspect I have not delved deep, but I know that artificial intelligence is already being applied
Okay.
in Africa. And you can Google digital economy Africa, whether it's the World Bank or Jack Ma from China, who has partnered an MOU with the president of Ethiopia to create a digital economy. And that's going to be a game changer in terms of how we conduct business in the continent.
Okay.
So individuals who may be involved in information technology or any of these technologies should be looking at that. Digital economy Africa. What does that mean? Where is that going? Why is the World Bank encouraging that? Why is Jack Ma, the Alibaba president, visiting Africa regularly to promote the digital economy?
And it's one of the last years of significant arable land in the world, isn't it?
Not just that, but a labor force. Africa has the youngest population. Uganda, for example, has the youngest population worldwide in terms of young people.
Okay, in that cohort, in like the 15 or 25 to 50, yeah, yes, cohort.
So you're looking at $1 trillion economy.
In the entire Africa?
In entire Africa. And you now have the Continental Free Trade Agreement, which is encouraging a global, a continental-wide Africa. So these are developments that we should be looking at seriously.
Absolutely.
And I'm glad I can help you reflect on these.
Yes, and I'm happy that you're...
I love to share these stories, Patrick.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. Well, Fritz, we're coming up to the time when we almost have to conclude. Do you have any closing words or anything that you'd like to say to the viewers and listeners?
The world of entrepreneurship is an exciting, welcoming one, but it's a big risk. If you're looking at pensions, do not become an entrepreneur.
Okay.
But if you're looking at working all the way through, do that. And I welcome folks to look at entrepreneurship.
Well, thank you, Fritz, for coming. Thank you for exciting insight. And we look forward to many more exchanges with you and with your expertise and consultancy.
Thank you
for
very
coming.
much, Patrick.